Andrew Hawkins joins us this morning on Midnight's Edge in the Morning. TGIF. Well, if it matters anymore for most people, since it's been Blur's Day for a year. Welcome to Midnight's Edge in the Morning. I'm Tom Connors. With me, as always, is the big boss man, Andre. How you doing?
I am excellent, thank you. How about yourself?
Doing the best I can, and that's all they're going to get out of me, at least this early in the morning. Speaking of early in the morning, how you doing, Rob, the voice of Midnight's Edge?
Love me some Moog synthesizer. Tom, there's a saying, good enough for government work. So
it's funny you mentioned Moog. I'll talk to you about that later. And with us this morning, a very special guest returning, film, I guess you would call it, documentary filmmaker, producer, Andrew Hawkins. How you doing?
Doing good, guys. Thank you so much for having me back on. This is great.
Always glad to have you here. You always got fun stuff for us to talk about, and I don't think today is going to be any exception to that. So how you been?
Good. We've been making some great strides towards getting In Search of Tomorrow, our 80s sci-fi documentary released this year. In Search of Darkness Part 2 has come out, and we've been getting a lot of great praise for that, which has been awesome. And that's going to be coming to Shudder very soon at the end of April. So we were happy to announce that. And then I've got some new stuff to share with you guys that I've sent some videos and things over for. So I'm super excited to talk to you about the documentaries that we're doing.
Awesome. Very cool. So as you all can hear, we'll be talking, or so you can see from the thumbnails that I see X Morbius is very excited about, who says for $5, oh yes, video game show. I still hope for a Metroid movie someday. And yes,
too.
Indeed, that is indeed what we'll be talking about today. I know I jumped some super chats. There are some earlier ones, and we'll get to all of that. So today we'll talk some video game movies. For a while, as some of you may be aware, there's recently been something of a hit piece on many of, not us directly, but on many of our friends in the YouTube community, and we'll be discussing that later on. But for right now, it's video game show indeed. And we have a great audience here today. We have Silver Nova is here, Mags is here, Spider Unlimited is here, and says, thanks for being my listening companions on my drive up to Vermont, going to my house, writing Getaway, and finishing my next script. You all have a great influence, so I thank you. Take my money. Well, thank you. Thank you for your $19.99. We really appreciate that, and be sure to drive safely. Then, we see more and more people are joining us live. We have Stephen Otten in here, and who also says, hail Midnight's Edge and everyone in the chat. Have a happy Blur's Day. Andrew, don't you miss the days when there was, or back in time 1 year ago when there actually was a Friday?
That's crazy. I think the thing I miss the most is definitely the ability to travel more freely like we used to have over a year ago. I remember around this time I was coming back from an art exhibition in Dresden, and just the ability to be able to really comfortably go international is something that I can't wait until we can do again. But the way that the weeks have all blended together is just nuts. It's like that old Primus quote in the song Groundhog's Day. When you're unemployed, the weekends don't mean quite so much. And I think a lot of us are really feeling that.
Yeah, indeed. And we feel with everyone out there who is unemployed or who are just finishing their studies and trying to get a work right now. Good luck with that. But we hope to be able to take your mind off things and provide something else to put your mind on. So
for sure,
just provide a little bit of community. We also have Tiberius Monk here, who says, "Get over here." For excellent and insightful discussion on entertainment and pop culture news with Midnight's Edge. Hail Midnighters, Hail koalas. Oh yeah, I'm sure we're going to have some koalas in there later on. And that was the last of the super chats that I was able to bring up on screen, but we have some earlier ones, and I'm going to go through those before we get into the main topic of today. So, starting us off today was Stephanie Janisek Smuggler's Cantina, who sent us $9.99 and said, a little for coffee. Well, thank you so much. And then we had 3 super chats in a row from BK0271 for a combined 7 Canadian dollars. Thank you so much. And he says first, Hail Midnight's Edge. Have you guys heard anything on the latest efforts to get Netflix to pick up the rights to Legend of the Seeker? Legend of the Seeker, anyone?
Not
Okay.
real aware of
No,
what
no,
it is.
no.
Yeah. So yeah, no, we
I'm
haven't.
assuming
Sorry
it's
about
some
that.
kind of anime thing or something, maybe.
Is it on the Sega Mega Drive? Then I don't know.
Does it have karate in it?
And then it continues. Would love to see Bridget Reagan and Tabret Bethel reprise their roles, even if it's a reboot. 2 powerful, strong, and sexy women done right. Yeah, we'll have to check that out then, but we don't have any information right now. But even so,
it's a 2-season series that was out in the late 2000s. Cool looking fantasy, and yeah, the fan base looks like they want to pick back up.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, fingers crossed for that. Maybe you get your chance. And then finally he said, love your guys' channel, one of my favorites. Oh, thank you so much. And then we have the Fessman93, who more recently said, let's make a movie based on Superman, Nintendo 64. Andrew, you familiar with that
You don't
game?
want to do that, no.
Flying through rings.
For 3 acts of flying through rings, hour and a half, I think it's doable. A popcorn muncher for sure. Yeah.
Indeed.
Instant 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. Except
But
for
what
the
we are-
people would love it.
But what we are definitely getting, though, in just 1 month, is Mortal Kombat. And just the other day, we got confirmed that the movie will indeed be rated R. Andrew, after having seen the trailer for Mortal Kombat, are you surprised that it was rated R?
Not at all. I think with what the trailer showed and the red band, I mean, there's no way that it was going to be nerfed down to a PG-13. Everything that Sub-Zero is doing, everything that we're seeing from, the fatalities, Kano ripping a heart out, it's got to have been an R unless they were going to just scrap everything that they showed us in the teaser.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's... Tom and Rob, are you surprised that it got an
I'm
R
not
rating?
surprised. I'm still surprised that I'm looking forward to the movie. I was not expecting it to look so good.
Yeah, who knew? I mean, out of nowhere, a great-looking Mortal Kombat movie's coming.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem to be like taming anything down. And outside of a couple characters missing, like Johnny Cage and Chun-Li, where's poor Chun-Li?
Yeah, did you hear about that?
Film. Yeah. When I heard about that, I was just scratching my head about the integrity of entertainment journalism right now, and whether or not people are actually even doing their homework. And then I saw the fallout of that and how it was then reframed to be a joke post, and the entire time I was just like, hand on my head, yeah, okay, sure. But that is, again, something I think it's someone just maybe not familiar with what they're particularly writing on. I'm just glad, though, that the fans are, excited for the movie.
Yeah, I feel like it was one of those things that definitely got past too many people and shouldn't have, but kind of funny in the end, because you have a movie called Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li.
Yeah.
And you actually have a song where they mentioned each and every one of the characters in Mortal Kombat that Chun-Li is not a part of, obviously. So,
But you have to be a pretty good fan to even have heard that, or not to have heard it, but
I don't know about that.
to memorize all the names. I certainly don't recall like that badass voicing like Scorpion, Jax,
Sub-Zero.
Kano,
There's no Jax.
Yeah.
Kano's in there.
Yeah. That was a
Yeah, I think-
badass song.
I think the interesting thing is the discussion about Johnny Cage. I mean, we've got this new guy coming in. He's a cage fighter, MMA character. We don't really know his whole backstory, and everyone's kind of up in the air. And the fan theories are thinking, well, that's Johnny Cage. He's just going by a fighter name or something else. I wonder how
Johnny
it's gonna
Cage
play out.
fighter. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm excited for it. It was funny. I was even watching the, I think what it was 1996, the old Mortal Kombat came out from Paul W.S. Anderson.
Wasn't it 90? Yeah, probably
it
was
96, 97, somewhere in there.
Yeah, it was.
It may even been a little earlier than that.
Even.
I was going to say, I think it was 95, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 95.
I still love it. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's awesome. And Goro looked so good in it.
Oh, yeah, those can be effects. Yeah, I love how he's totally practical, too. I mean, that's just great.
And as for me, I'll never forget the moment because, like, at that time, Scorpion and Sub-Zero were my two favorite characters in that franchise by far. And it's like that scene where they both come down on the boat. It was like, oh my god, chills. Of course, the scene didn't last nearly long enough, but it was still completely badass to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's go back a little bit through the history of video game movies. And that history, to my awareness, actually begins with the Super Mario Brothers in 1993. What are your recollections of that movie, Andrew?
I still watch it. I love it. I'll get a pizza and put it on and watch that, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the movie. I mean, that film is inarguably a mess. There's so many just ridiculous things going on throughout the entire movie. There's all the discussion about how John Leguizamo was drinking through the entire thing, and it was just ridiculous to shoot. But I think it's immensely entertaining. I love Bob Hoskins. I love Dennis Hopper. Samantha Weaving. The majority of the cast are all fantastic. And again, it's one of those time capsule movies from the early 90s where you don't get production quality or, these big, huge set piece movies like that anymore. So I think it's always good to revisit, and just whether you're having a laugh or, you're enjoying it for nostalgia, it's still fun.
Just about everything about that movie should have made it a hit, aside from the fact that it's crazy.
Tom, I was about to ask you, Tom. I mean, is that a movie that they just the script just lying there and they plugged Mario and Luigi into, or no? There's a Mario Brothers movie.
There is such a sordid history that goes with the Mario Brothers movie that there are YouTube videos and documentaries about it. Mm-hmm. But basically, no, they were commissioned. There was people commissioned to make a Mario Brothers movie. The original idea was fairly similar to what the video game was. There was several rewrites, and then this wife and husband directing crew came in, rewrote the entire script, and they basically didn't want to make a Mario Brothers movie. So they came in and rewrote it as a cyberpunk movie. And it really just kind of messed with the entire mojo of the film. So like Andrew was saying, Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo were drunk through the entire production because they were constantly getting script changes.
And they were constantly getting hurt. They were always getting beat up.
Yeah, Bob Hoskins actually broke his hand by getting it stuck in a car door or the van door.
I've done that. Oh boy.
And basically, so yeah, they were constantly getting changes. Like even the studio at the last minute thrusted Yoshi into the movie, and all this other crap. And it was a mess. And I think they shot for like 4 months or some shit like that, and in some old steelworks factory. So they probably all got like cancer from it or some shit. But Yeah, it was not the best of terms to film a film on, but like the soundtrack was great, the production value was great. Like Andrew said, everything like was put together real well. They spent God knows how much money on that movie. Disney even came in and injected a bunch of money into it at the end, and they were part of that. They got the distribution deal on it, and I'm sure they wish they hadn't. Even our buddy Ed Sullivan wrote a draft of that without being credited. So if we ever get to talk to him again, I'm sure we'll be asking him what went into that. But yeah, the original idea for the script was way different than what we got.
Yeah, I think that's right. Ed Solomon wrote a treatment for it sometime after he did Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Yeah.
And I got to correct myself. Samantha Mathis is fantastic in it as Daisy.
Yes.
This isn't a Peach movie. This is a Daisy movie. So it kind of ties into the video game Super Mario Land stuff. But also you got, Fisher Stevens in there, and you got, just so many
Dennis
crazy...
Hopper is
Koopa.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those crazy lightning in a bottle, too many hands in the pot, wild movies. But I totally agree with you, Tom, that, it should have been a hit with everything going for it. And it just whiffed in every audience for some reason. But I know there's a huge chunk of us who grew up with it and who love it and, still look back on it as a really fun time.
I mean, as a movie, it's fine. I like it, enjoyable, but it's no Mario Brothers movie, that's for sure. And
no, it's a crazy cyberpunk movie. You're absolutely right. Big Bertha in the dance club, and at the very end, Lance Henriksen is the king coming down from the huge mushroom spore. All that stuff. It's wild.
Yeah. So you never actually saw the movie, Rob?
I've seen bits and pieces of it. I haven't committed myself to sitting down and watching the whole thing in its entirety. Just in passing, Mario Brothers is on. It's cool, and just maybe I'll get back to that.
I'd like to know where you'll find that anymore. Like nobody's showing it anymore.
It was just not. I can't remember how long ago that was.
I had to import the Blu-ray. Let's put it that way. It is very difficult to come across.
It's been squirreled away. Yeah.
It used to be on like HBO all the time. I remember it was like one of those daytime movies that they were constantly playing in the mid 90s. And yeah, you just, maybe you got it somewhere recorded on tape and a box in the attic. Who knows?
There was a DVD that came out way back when, but it was just basically a rip of the Laserdisc. Yeah, and Disney hasn't revisited it since.
One of those New Line hard boxes, and then it's just been shelved for a decade and a half.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you haven't seen it, Rob. Given like how frequently you are compared with Super Mario, at least in terms of outwardly appearance. So
it was his day the other day, March 10th.
Mario Day. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and that actually reminded me, I have some expired milk in the fridge that I have to get rid of. So
do I.
Expired milk is tight.
When I think of Rob, I think of spoiled milk.
Now I'm thinking of Duckman. Remember that cartoon Duckman? Good Lord, I'm drinking expired milk.
What the hell are you staring at? So great.
That was on USA, I believe.
Yep.
That was Hey Dodd. That was a funny Tom, Tom, is that on DVD?
Probably.
Okay.
As for the Super Mario movie, though, I will just say that that's what you get when you hire the creators of Max Headroom to do Superman, to do Super Mario. And I cannot think of two properties that are more diametrically opposed than Super Mario and Max Headroom. But if you were to splice the two together somehow, then that movie is what you get. So certainly it's a very interesting thing. We can say that. But that wasn't the end for video game movies, although it was hardly a flying start. I do believe the next one after that may have been Double Dragon. Now, who here has seen Double Dragon? And if so, were you familiar with the game?
Oh, yeah. I remember, again, that was one of those that was on cable all the time. And I actually do like the Double Dragon movie, and a lot of people really give it a hard time. And it's just one of those things where, again, it's combining the Nintendo property with the cyberpunk aesthetic, because you've got, Billy Lee and his brother just stuck in this kind of future world, living in a movie theater, and you got Robert Patrick coming in as this wild, white-haired sort of guru villain, and the mystic element of it. It's all really jumbled together stuff. But I grew up loving the Double Dragon original game on arcade and on regular Nintendo. I mean, that was one of my all-time favorite beat-em-ups, and still is. How about you guys? Are you fans of the movie at all, or growing up with the game?
I know of the movie. I like the game. I know of the movie. Well, for me, I'm like, that movie is like, oh yeah, that's the one where Alyssa Milano's fully clothed. Yeah, okay, well, maybe that. Oh, she's that's just, let me tell you, she
is her hair falling out from COVID though?
No. Let me tell you, she curses out that stupid vampire movie she's made, but that she's still getting a couple bucks every year, every so often for that. So, but anyway,
Double Dragon is everything Mario. It wishes it was Mario Brothers. Let's put it that way.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it's such a bad take on the
I
idea.
feel bad for Mark Dacascos too, because he's trying to bring a sense of charm to playing Jimmy, and it's just like, well,
Jimmy and Bimmy.
That's it, yeah. And as they're called in the movie, I think it's Ugg and Home, ugly and homely. But
well, that was a famous misprint in the original game of calling them, instead of Jimmy and Billy, it was Jimmy and
Bimmy. Yeah, exactly. You're totally right. It's everything that it wishes, it could be, stacked up against the Mario Brothers movie. And if that's your bar, it's a little tough to get there.
Yeah, it's like you got Double Dragon way down here next to Street Fighter, and then you go up a ways, and you got Mario Brothers, and you go up even way higher than that is Mortal Kombat near the top. And then people like the Resident Evil games and stuff like that, the movies and stuff. I was never really into the Resident Evil ones, but I know those were done fairly well for the most part. But yeah, I mean, video game movies are not something that's been real successful. Well, Mortal Kombat seems to be the only one that can break that mold.
Well, the inherent problem with video games is that the player drives so much of the narrative.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's difficult to really translate to on screen.
Well, the best video game movie ever isn't even based on a video game.
The best video
from New York.
Yeah, the best
we
video
all
game.
Play that as a video game, right?
Yeah,
I'd love to.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah, the best video game movie is actually one of the best movies ever. Is a video game, Metal Gear Solid. I'm like,
that's basically Escape from New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, looking at the way that certain films are structured, if you take movies that existed before games were really a thing, I actually look at the film Game of Death from Bruce Lee as one of those perfect video game movies where it's level by level, you're going all the way up to the boss fight. And I think sometimes video game movies kind of overcomplicate that a little bit, where you've got this creative team behind trying to adapt a property where they go beyond the structure of, okay, let's just get our character or our characters through each level to get to the final fight or whatever it is. Like, I think if someone kind of followed that Game of Death sort of structure, which eventually, was really used for that classic game Kung Fu, I think if someone went that route and did something with like a property similar to like Streets of Rage or Final Fight, it'd be killer. It would just be an instant, perfect flick.
Oh yeah, totally. And Streets of Rage, isn't that already kind of based on Streets of Fire anyway? The movie.
well, one of the it actually kind of is. And also, like the game itself, like the game mechanics.
That's what I mean.
Actually, from Double Dragon.
Not the mechanics, but the first
game. Yeah. But the movie, it's I think it's from there. Yeah.
Or vice versa. The game, I think, was more loosely based on that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about saying people in chat are bringing up Sonic. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah,
before long.
Slithering Peanut brings up the Crank series. Yeah, those movies actually are meant to be video games because at the end of the credits during the first movie, it's like there's the one-up bit, and then in the second film, that's what that whole big boss battle at the end is supposed to be too. So like that's what Crank is. It's meant to be a video game.
From what video game as a movie.
Yeah, the director and all that we're talking about. Yeah. But yeah, Sonic, of course, is a bit of the exception to the rules. And I think that Sonic is a bit of a different animal, pun intended, than most video games because he had such a huge world built up around him that wasn't necessarily in the video game, right, Andre? And I mean, of course, we covered a lot of that with Ken Penders in his interview. And that's the whole point is like Sonic's world was expanded so widely and not just, animation, but comic books and other places, more so than Mario was because Nintendo was very protective of Mario for the last 20 years since that movie.
Yeah, perhaps to the character's detriment on film. And I do believe that Sonic the Hedgehog may be like the most commercially best example of what you can do. Because honestly, in my book, that's the best theatrical movie of last year, bar none, regardless of any publication trying to tell us that, no, Birds of Prey was better. No, it wasn't, and you know it. But I will say though, before we take a too deep dive into Sonic and the future, we jumped over a bunch of video game adaptations there in the meantime. But I would like to highlight a couple which I actually think are really, really good ones. Yeah, you have some really bad ones. Of course, everything with the name Uwe Boll attached to it generally is really, really bad, with one exception.
Blood Rain?
No, not that one. That's one of the really bad ones. Even a 2000 AD ripoff, I learned from our good friend Mr. H. But no, actually, Postal. I have never played the game Postal, but Uwe Boll, he has made 2 movies in his life that, in my opinion, weren't just good, but great satires. One of them is Rampage, which is not a video game movie, but the other is Postal, which is a video game movie. Now, again, I have never played Postal because it's not on the Sega Mega Drive, but I have seen the movie. I don't know how it compares to the game or anything like that, but in terms of pure satire, of satirizing the post 9/11 world and climate, that movie is a gem. It is a completely underrated gem, and it's fantastic in every single way as a social satire. Who the hell knows how it is as a video game movie, but as a satire, it's spot on. Have any of you seen Postal?
No, see, I've seen chunks of it. Yeah. And I know, that's a Zach Ward movie. Everyone knows him as Scott Farkas from A Christmas Story. It's one that's been on the watch list, but everything that I've seen from Postal makes me want to sit down and check it out. And as an adaptation of the game, I played the game, and the game's notorious for its hyperviolence and its, I guess you could say, misanthropy and contempt for all of the non-playable characters in the game, basically just because you're running around blowing everyone away regardless. So it had huge, issues with parents and censors and everything. But you recommend it, Andre? It's one that is absolutely actually a really good Uwe Boll film.
Yeah, I think so. Again, it's not I don't know if it's a good video game movie, but it's a very good social satire.
Nice.
Extremely good social satire. And I cannot recommend it enough from that point of view.
Speaking of video games, part of the reason we're discussing this is you brought us something this morning, Andrew.
Yes. So
if you want to set this up.
I'm happy to, absolutely. And it's funny too, we're talking about these video game adaptations. One that you didn't mention, Andre, actually kind of relates to what we're doing. And that's
we're getting to it. Doom.
Doom. And I was also going to say House of the Dead. So what we're doing at Creative VC right now is, while we're in production on our 80s sci-fi documentary In Search of Tomorrow, and now that we've released our second 80s horror documentary In Search of Darkness Part 2, we have started development on a new documentary that we're excited to bring everyone called FPS First Person Shooter. And this is a history and celebration of first person shooter games, games like Doom, games like Quake, games like House of the Dead, games like Call of Duty, and of course Medal of Honor, and so many more. All of the first-person shooters that we love, and we're doing a deep dive into everything about these games. So we're really looking forward to developing this and bringing it to everyone. And right now we're getting the word out to check out the fpsdoc.com website, where you can sign up and give your input on what you want to see in this documentary. We want to have this be part of our platform where it's by the fans for the fans, and to get everyone's involvement, to get everyone's input. We absolutely value that. But yeah, we're excited to be doing FPS first-person shooter. It's really fun.
Yeah, first-person shooters was a genre that took me a very, very long time to come around to, because to me they all kind of look the same disembodied floating gun, you know.
Sure, yeah. For me, I mean, it was right from the beginning. Like, I missed out on some of the earliest ones, like Maze Runner and a couple of others, but Wolfenstein 3D, that was a game changer, and then Doom following shortly after. From then on, those wound up being some of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah, Wolfenstein. Now that's my jam right there. I freaking loved Wolfenstein. If there's one PC game that I really regret never made it onto the Sega Mega Drive, which is really my jam, it's Wolfenstein. Because seriously, that game, amazing. I never really got into Doom so much. I do like the movie Doom with Carl Urban and Dwayne Johnson, and the reboot that came out a couple of years ago, which I haven't seen, is far lower budget, that apparently is a better movie from what I understand. So that's probably worth checking out. But Wolfenstein, oh my God, that's awesome stuff right there.
See, now really someone in the chat, Chris the Amps, or what, I can't pronounce that name. Half-Life was the first time FPS started to have a great story. I never liked Half-Life. I tried several times to play Half-Life. I'm like, I just kept saying, this is dumb. And I just
but then they're evidently not for you, then, the whole genre. Because I also know that the people that like first-person shooter, ask a whole ton of people. They love Half-Life.
I know, yeah.
That game was huge. It opened so many doors. Andrew, do you know a little bit about that story from Half-Life and from there on out to the genre is not for everyone, but for those that are. What are the big players in the genre beyond Wolfenstein and Doom?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, of course, you've got GoldenEye 64 as one of the all-time great for consoles, and then right on the tail of that, you've got Turok, which is still being ported to Nintendo Switch right now. The classic is just a great favorite, but absolutely Half-Life is one of those that was a huge fan favorite. And then you've got like we talked about earlier, Metroid. I'd love to see a movie of that. Metroid Prime is a shift in the series where you get that first-person shooter perspective and play an amazing game on the GameCube, but some even more modern ones, like the new Doom games, are amazing. Dusk is a great indie title that goes back into horror shooter territory, which has some classic, almost Quake-like design to it, but it's a favorite. The BioShock series, Left 4 Dead. You've even got that Judge Dredd game that was an awesome first-person shooter, and the Aliens vs. Predator game that came out way back for the Atari Jaguar and PC. I mean, there are games in the genre that really are for everyone. If you're a fan of genre movies, horror, sci-fi, action, anything, and you want to, get behind the stick of being in the first-person perspective, charging through a game and having a blast, I think really it's even for theater fans. Like, I remember going to the movies in the early 2000s. You've got games like Time Crisis that were just an absolute blast to play in the arcade before you went in and saw your movie. And yeah, it's something that we're really exploring. We're getting developers, we're getting designers, we're getting game directors, we're getting people who write about games, people who do essays and extensive reviews and so much more. And it's, again, celebrating this genre, this specific style of gameplay, but all of these games that encompass that. And it's a really, really good time so far. And we've got a great trailer, a teaser trailer that we've put together that, we think sort of shows exactly how we're coming at this.
Well, I guess then that's probably a good place to show that, and then we'll get to some super chats. Well, how's that sound, Andre?
Sounds perfect. Roll trailer.
Let's rock.
Come get some.
Exciting. Now, this is a force to be reckoned with.
All right. Well, there's something to look forward to. Is there anything you want to tell us about the documentary right now, Andrew?
Yeah. Well, just to, talk about some of the other heavy hitters that we saw in the trailer, of course, Halo, Duke Nukem, so many more. The documentary is in production right now. We are going to be launching the Kickstarter very soon, so keep an eye out for that. And the best way to track all the progress and come along for the ride with us is go to @FPSDoc across social media, Twitter, Instagram. We're also on Facebook. And then hit up our website. Go to fpsdoc.com. And like I said, give us your input. Tell us what you want to see. Tell us your favorite first-person shooter games. And having everyone's input and having the fans along for the ride is a huge part of what we do with our documentaries. So we're really excited to bring this to everyone.
I have a request on that note right away.
Yeah.
Virtua Fighter, one of my all-time favorites. Is that going to be a part of it, or does that not fall within the first-person shooter? Because that's like one where you have like a gun, at least in the arcades.
Mm-hmm. Virtua Fighter, that's one that the Virtua Fighter that I remember is the fighting game. Now, the one that you're talking about,
Virtua Cop is the one I mean.
Yes, because like I talked about, Time Crisis and games just like that, the arcade games where you've got the light gun, that is a part of the discussion. So we absolutely have games, even going into ones like Duck Hunt, where they're not the traditional type of first-person shooter, but you still have that perspective. That's absolutely going to be getting a segment where that gets brought up in one capacity or another. But yeah, Virtua Cop is great stuff.
Yeah, it is indeed. It is indeed. So that's very, very cool.
But the games that we're going to highlight the most are going to be the heaviest hitters of the first-person shooter genre, basically. And like I said, bringing in developers, bringing in super fans, bringing in celebrity speakers, bringing in people who made the games and have great things to say about the games. That's what we're all about, just like we do with our horror and sci-fi documentaries.
Awesome. Can't wait to check that out. And you guys are very thorough, of course, so I cannot imagine that this will be any less thorough. But we have some super chats we need to get through. We got a couple we can highlight right now, and then we'll have to go back to the ones we left off on. The Hijabi
Tom,
Gamer.
Yes, you do those exactly. That's what I wanted to.
The Hijabi Gamer says Destiny and Destiny 2. Don't forget them. Are they part of the proceedings, Andrew?
They're on the list, and if you want to make sure to give us your word, get over to the website and put it on paper, because we have everything that we're collecting, and we want to highlight what you want to see.
Awesome. Do you have a link I can share of the website in the chat here, and then I can throw that in the...
Absolutely. That is fpsdoc.com.
All right. So we'll get that link for you. And then we got Oki Drummer Guy 89 sending in $1.99, says, please include the Marathon Trilogy in your FPS doc. Well, is that one that's on the list too, or is that one they should probably get over there and let you guys know about?
Get over there and let us know about it. Hit us up and
there you go.
Sign up so you can track as the documentary gets made, and we want to hear everything from everyone. That's it.
All right. And then Mr. Tickle Trunk has a technical question.
Yes.
Who did the editing for the FPS trailer? It's absolutely phenomenal.
So that's our director. Our director, Christopher, is an amazing filmmaker and also visual effects creator. He put that trailer together with all of our input from the first development of making the documentary, and he did a phenomenal job. So yeah, he's going to be basically behind the wheel of the documentary and putting it together, and that pace and that energy that you get from that trailer is exactly what we're bringing to the film.
Awesome. And then Grand Wazoo sent us in a €5 super sticker. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. Those help keep the lights on. So Andre, let's go back to some of the earlier super chats. What do you got for us?
Yes, indeed. I got what we got is did we get the one from Stephen Otten, who said, my problem is I'm not too well versed in video games, only have the movies to go by, and they're a mixed bag. Give me a Galaga movie any day.
Yes, Galaga.
Yeah, that would be quite the movie. Mr. Tickle Trunk also sent a little doggy super sticker, and Alex Acera says for $9.99. Thank you so much. No, first he said for $19.99, because I read them out of order here. Louis Tan potentially is the next big thing given his prominence. I'm sure he is Kuai Lang, Sub-Zero Prime in the premise, cast social media, and Tan's stoic demeanor. I think they waited to promote it due to it being obvious. I think so too, but we shall see. And then he said for another $9.99, thank you so much. Last thing, I recommend Street Fighter Assassin's Fist. Joey Ansa faithfully adapted it and made a great martial arts drama cast. I recommend his thoughts on diversity if you can find an interview. Alex Acera, I agree completely. It has no. Actually, she isn't.
God damn it!
To my awareness, but Street Fighter Assassin's Fist is phenomenal. Andrew, have you seen it?
I haven't.
Oh, you have to.
I'm definitely down to check it out for sure.
Wow, it's because it actually started as a fan-made production that was going to be fan-funded. But it was so good that external investors actually stepped in and fully funded it, so they didn't have to rely on fan funding. And then Capcom recognized it as an official entry into the Street Fighter saga. It is that good. So forget all about the Van Damme movie, especially forget about the Chun-Li movie. Check out Street Fighter Assassin's Fist. It is fantastic.
I will never forget about Chun-Li.
Well,
until she finally enters the Mortal Kombat.
That's right. And the Avengers and the Justice League.
Exactly. And then Tiberius Monk says, King of Kong, a Fistful of
Hell yeah.
Quarters is a wonderful documentary about a competitive Donkey Kong tournament between Steve Weeb and Billy Mitchell. Also, Hardcore Henry is a fun video game-inspired film. Yeah, it is indeed. And Jabrailon Van Sant says, third Sonic movie sets up Sonic Riders as a sequel. Well, let's focus on the second one first.
Yeah.
And ST Redful says for $5, video game movies are essentially porting the game to the silver screen. Like the Scooby-Doo movies, usually terribly done. Sonic is the exception. Well, actually, I forgot one. Silent Hill.
Yes.
I haven't seen the second one, but the first Silent Hill, again, in my opinion, is... I never played the video game, but as a standalone horror movie, Silent Hill is freaking fantastic.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, I think it's a great film all around. I think it's an interesting mix of the first two Silent Hill games for the most part. I love Rhoda Mitchell in the movie. She's a great main character.
Yeah.
The way that they realize the town, and I mean, it's got so much going for it, especially in that final 20 minutes when everything just erupts and Alice Krieg's evil cult leader character gets shredded up by the whole barbed wire, death that happens. It's well done, and it's just good. I think, it's one even video game fans who aren't, keen on adaptations should check out. It's a very well done movie.
Alice Krieg even said that making that movie really messed her up. Like when she came back from filming it, her dog took time to get used to her again because it put her in such a dark place.
And that's, again, to the effect of Christopher Gant's direction, the tone of the film, the amazing script, and I think as a standalone horror movie, it's just good. It's very well realized. I think even Pyramid Head doing his thing. You're not going to get a better version of that on the screen. Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Ripping the skin off the entire body of the girl from the town and just being that dominating presence through the entire thing and being a full-on threat. And then the cop character. I mean, there's so much good going on in that movie for sure.
Yeah, it's truly underrated. So if you haven't seen Silent Hill, regardless of what you may feel about the game or how true it is to the game, I know nothing about that. But as a standalone movie, in my opinion, Silent Hill is criminally underrated.
The actual town Silent Hill is based off of, Centralia, Pennsylvania, has an interesting story. If anyone is interested, go research that. That's actually very fascinating.
Yeah, how it's been on fire underground for what, for 6 decades?
since the 70s, yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. And then we have next super chat then is from John Apocalypse, who says, Earthworm Jim, Castlevania, DMC had great cartoons. Hell yeah, I'm not familiar with the other ones, but Earthworm Jim was fantastic.
Yeah, I enjoy the old cartoon for that. And even the games, I loved playing the Earthworm Jim games. Kind of like what Tom was talking about with sort of stories behind properties. I would love to see Earthworm Jim make a good comeback, just kind of like the way that Sonic did with Sonic Mania. If we got a great team to do an awesome 2D platformer of Earthworm Jim, another one of those would be just awesome.
Yeah, it would indeed. Like the remake was good, but it didn't really push things forward. And so the best version of Earthworm Jim to this day in games remains the Sega CD version.
Yeah.
Go figure. That is the best version. Sega CD. They criminally underrated. And then we have Roll Titan, who says The Last Starfighter is a video game movie. I wouldn't know that. Tom, is The Last Starfighter a video game movie?
It grows up. it grows out of the love of the time for video games. I guess that's a really good question. Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the first setup of the movie is basically the kid, Lance Guest, is playing the Last Starfighter arcade game at his, I guess not really like a mobile home park, but sort of the Starfighter. Park, yeah. That's essentially what it is. Yeah. But he eventually beats the game, gets the highest score, and winds up getting picked up and taken into outer space. And then you've got somewhat of a space shooter thing going on, kind of for the Atari and the ColecoVision and the arcade generation there. I think it's really well done as a movie that takes inspiration from those types of games, from those, top-down space shooters or those side-scroller space shooters, or even the, off-axis ones like, Zaxxon or something like that. But I think it's just a fun movie all around. And what's great, too, in fact, talking about that in discussion of our 80s sci-fi documentary, we just had interviews with both Lance Guest and Catherine Mary Stewart from The Last Starfighter, who are going to be in the documentary on camera talking about being in the film. So we love chatting with them about it.
But did you ask him about Jaws: The Revenge?
We're saving that for a very specific targeted documentary that we're going to be doing about knockoff sequel awful. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we just had a great conversation with him about his career and the movies that he's made, especially the ones that pertain to what we're doing with the sci-fi doc.
Right.
And yeah, he was just the best to chat with, and he loved getting into how these films are valuable and how it's also really good for us to revisit these movies that we all have a soft spot for, either nostalgically or we still love or we still find entertaining. But yeah, I would say that, Last Starfighter is definitely a video game movie in the way that it honors video games that relate to, space shooters and that type of film and all of that. And then it just, features arcade cabinets in the entire thing. And I love movies where you see arcades show up or, video games pop up and the characters are playing them. Everything from Twilight Zone the movie to Maximum Overdrive,
Believe it or not, Andre's never seen The Last Starfighter, but I kind of
get on that.
It's really good.
You could put it in a handful of films that are kind of like video game based, but not based on any specific video games. David Rayner just brought up War Games. That was what I was going to bring up between that, The Wizard, Tron. They all kind of like fit in this kind of world of like, video games are a big deal in them kind of thing. And I'm sure there's a few other ones as well that, that I overlooked, but no, The Last Starfighter is definitely one you got to check out, Andre. But let's get to the rest of these super chats here.
Yes. The Festman93 says, here's hoping Uncharted will be good.
Speaking of
and
video
Joe
games.
Pat87 says, is DD, well, I guess Dungeons and Dragons, The Lady and the Tramp 2 of video game movies?
I think he means Double Dragon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fine.
If you mean the remake Lady and the Tramp, I don't see anything wrong with the original one.
I think it's Lady and the Tramp 2. So
Lady and the Tramp 2
video sequels.
That one was not very good either. You're right. I don't know about that. It's worse than that.
Yeah. And Joe Pat87 also says, Super Mario Brothers the movie, a turkey to be certain, but one I still have a soft spot for. My nephew's also obsessed with Mario, but I wouldn't show him it. TTFFWIW. Not quite sure what that is, but maybe you guys know. So, but yeah, wait until he's old enough to that you can understand. Like, this is what happens when you get people that love cyberpunk do a Super Mario movie. So, lesson, don't let people who love cyberpunk do a Super Mario movie. Because that never works out. And Cesario JPN says, surprised Rob hasn't brought up the Super Hornio Brothers porn parody with Ron Jeremy and TT Boy.
Yeah, that's a different podcast. Yeah,
a different podcast. Time and place for everything. And Jabrailan Van Sant says, I'm a bit of a Melina fan. She is my main go-to. Yeah, I look forward to seeing how she's going to be in this Mortal Kombat movie. And Cesario JPN also said, I kind of want to see a Streets of Rage or a first-person shooter game like Rainbow Six Siege or Call of Duty. Then again, no Russian scene, anyone?
I don't know. I've only played a couple of the Call of Duty games. I mean, I don't know if how well they translate because is there really even main characters in those? Like, is there even storyline to them?
There's kind of 3 main characters.
They do have like a running storyline though, or?
Yeah, I mean it's the story of the war told through the eyes of 3 different characters. Really,
Okay.
I mean.
Yeah. And then we have Mr. Plague Doctor who says, I hope this movie leads into bigger things. Onaga, Armageddon, etc. And then, you like this one. The Hijabi Gamer says, Tom, Muslim female gamer here, trying to break the narrative. I am anti-woke, anti-SJW, and anti-cancel culture. You said people like me need to speak up.
Glad to hear you. Absolutely. That's what we need, and especially considering a lot of stuff that's going on now. But yeah, that's what needs to change and it's going to be tough. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to ignore you at first. But yeah, reach out to me on Twitter and send me like your links and stuff, and I'll definitely check out your channel.
Yeah. And Cultured Casino says, looking forward to Mortal Kombat. Video game movies are going to have a tough path forward. They will not be able to be accurate. Too many will clutch pearls. Yeah, you're not wrong about that, but we shall see. We shall see if they finally can learn how to do it. And this says for $10, gaming special like those jerks at EA that lost Star Wars license for messing up a ton of Star Wars games. And all the developers they screwed over for years. Yeah, EA today does not seem to be the same EA that made my beloved Desert Strike and Jungle Strike games, but yeah, I guess things change. Andrew, what are your thoughts on EA these days and what they've done with their Star Wars games?
Yeah, I'm with a lot of people who talk about EA having troubled issues with IPs and, of course, microtransactions and all of the problems that go with having, I guess, production teams that are focused more on income and revenue than actual gameplay and design and fun and entertainment. I would love to see EA just, giving developers free reign to come up with great games without the restrictions of having to, check the boxes of, all right, well, we need to make sure that whenever a player is doing a certain thing or building a certain thing, that there has to be a paywall at some point. I want them to kind of shake that bad reputation that they've got. And, like you're talking about Desert Strike and the classics. I mean, I even love playing those across platforms, even on Game Boy, but that was long before the current state of games that we're in right now, where everything has to be networked and everything has to be accounted for with DLCs and additional funds being plugged in from players all the time. I want them to not screw up properties like Star Wars and things like that. I want it to go back into a creative mindset instead of just a bottom line mindset. And I actually have friends who develop games and have released games with EA in the past that are looking at new properties and new releases. And it seems like, things are looking good in the future. So my whole thing is, let's just get there so everyone's happy again.
Yeah, indeed. Let's hope that EA are able to bring back some of their past glories. And then more recently, we have Mecha J that says for $10, I've seen some fan films of video game movies done much better than the ones done by Hollywood. That's because fans know and understand the property much better. Yeah, you're not wrong. And CZ says, best video game to movie adaptation, Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. Oh,
That's
hell yeah.
That one's great.
It's amazing. I love that one. And I don't even like anime, but I like that one. And Hypergiver 2 says, I'm thrilled knowing that Uwe Boll is no longer making movies. Now we need to get Paul Anderson and Mila Jovovich to stop because Monster Hunter sucked. It sure did. But I think that they announced like a new movie today or something, didn't they?
See, I missed that news. If they've got a new one coming, I got to check it out and, keep an eye on it. Because who knows if, they're ever going to go back to Resident Evil like the what?
Well, that's
8
being
they plugged out?
rebooted. That's being
Right.
like they're making 6 more, but it's a rebooted series.
Finally walking away from Alice and Paul W.S. Anderson's direction to take it in a new way then.
Yeah, different direction. That's exactly what they're doing. But they're planning 6 of them, so they're going to milk that for a long time. That is for certain. But yeah, I think that he announced something new. I don't see right now what it was, but I'm sure it's going to have Mila Jovovich. Yeah, which I don't blame him for. But yeah. And also, I like Mila Jovovich. Just too bad that Monster Hunter sucked so bad. And I kind of like checked out after Resident Evil after the second movie. But I really like that first one.
Yeah, I'm seeing the next one that they might go for is a George R.R. Martin short, In the Lost Lands. And that'll inspire their new fantasy film, whatever it winds up becoming. But that got announced here recently. So that's what we've got up next from Mila and Paul W.S. Anderson. We'll see how it goes.
Well, I'm sure they can't do any worse than the guys that messed up Game of Thrones. So, or certainly they messed up the landing worse than any landing has ever been messed up before. But yeah. And then Troy Pacelli says, hit the thumbs up, people. Yes, hit that like if you like what we're doing here. And Nelson Sharetta says, Rob, heard of Resident Alien? Wednesday, 10 p.m. Sci-fi.
Funny you should mention that. Resident Alien, Wednesdays at 10 on Sci-Fi. I've been for if Andrew doesn't get the running joke. I've been talking to Resident Alien. Like,
the money.
Please, for the love of God, people, I want this show to get renewed. So I'm trying to turn as many people onto it as I can. Andrew, have you seen it yet?
I haven't seen it yet, but I remember you talking about it the last time I was on, and it's still one that I gotta get to. Absolutely worth it, huh?
Yeah, Resident Alien, Wednesdays at 10 on Sci-Fi.
There you go.
There you go. And
Tom, what time is that on again?
10 p.m., I believe. And then Stephen Otten says, if you liked Silent Hill, then check out Brotherhood of the Wolf. It's by the same director. Mark Dacascos is in it. Plus, there's nudity and karate. I love Brotherhood of the Wolf. That's a great movie.
Lepak Deleu, excellent film.
Yeah.
So good.
It is indeed. And Nelson Sharetta says, LSF. What do? We die.
Yep, that classic quote from Last Starfighter. Great scene. Again, everyone who hasn't seen it, Andre, you got to check it out. You'll love it.
Yeah. And Christopher Tock says for $10, the 3 best fan games: Sonic Mania, another Metroid 2 remake, and Streets of Rage remake. You all owe it to yourself to try it. The latter 2 are free. And Sonic Mania is freaking fantastic. And with that, I do believe we are caught up to this moment, unless there was something that happened right, or something that flashed by right now in this this moment. I don't think so.
You got all the Troy Pacelli's here.
Yeah, hit the like, people. Yeah, we got that one.
And we did get him. Okay.
Yeah, then we are caught up with super chats. No, I take that back again. The DCV Titan says a decent game movie, Wing Commander. Yeah. That one actually wasn't half bad. Like, there are so many video game movies that are underrated and forgotten because they kind of like just fell in with the time that they were made, so that people forgot about them, I guess.
Well, there was one that I was going to mention that we haven't talked about yet that's almost completely forgotten because it never really made its way outside of Japan. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this, but this is from 1989. It's Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Sweet Home, and it was based on the game that came out for the Famicom from Capcom. Sweet Home is the game that inspired what would eventually become Resident Evil. And this is one of the first real horror games where you go through the haunted house setting. You have your turn-based action. You see all these different horrific enemies and bosses as you work your way up to the ghost that's running the entire plot. It's excellent. The game is fantastic, but it was never taken outside of Japan, except there are some great fan translations that are available out there for people who go looking for them. But the film Sweet Home is a really good late 80s Japanese horror film that was made directly in line with the game. And it's got great effects, like Dick Smith, who worked on The Exorcist and Ghost Story and so many others. He brings some incredible moments to when some of the characters die off. It's one that, again, it's hard to find, but if you can get 1989 Sweet Home, it's highly recommended for fans of haunted house films and Japanese horror.
Oh, very cool. Thanks for that. And Morgan King wonders, is Dune a video game movie or a game based off of a movie? No, Dune is not a video game movie, but there have been multiple games which are based on both the Dune books and the Dune movie. There is at least one game that is based on the movie, and that is the Sega CD version.
I've got that one.
Explicitly based on the movie. Everything else, I think, is generally based on the books.
Yeah, Dune and Dune 2 are both great games.
Amazing.
Dune 4, with Paul Atreides as portrayed by Kyle MacLachlan on the cover. Fully tied in with the David Lynch version.
As for Dune 2, I have it right here. If I had the webcam, nice. I would have shown it because it's right here on my shelf, like literally a meter and a half away from me. So I have that on proud display.
And that one's Dune often credited as the best Dune game of all time. Dune 2.
I believe you. That game is freaking fantastic.
That's awesome.
So that is a very, very cool game. With that, why don't you repeat your the documentary that you are in the process of preparing for anyone that might have come in late?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I've talked about with you guys today and with everyone watching and listening in, we are working on a documentary based on first-person shooter games that we're excited to announce is in development right now. We've shown the teaser trailer for it. We've got the poster out there. We've got our presence on social media. You can find us at FPS Doc on Twitter, Instagram, and we're also on Facebook. And you can go to our website, fpsdoc.com. And first-person shooters are a genre and a type of game that we are exploring, we're celebrating, we're talking about the history of, we're talking about the impact of these games on the gaming world and the culture and the industry and everything, but we're bringing in developers and game directors and designers and creators and writers and fans and celebrities and people who really have something to say about these games and how much they love them and how valuable it is to discuss them and to revisit them. And we talk about the whole span of first-person shooters from the beginning to now and beyond. And the title of the documentary is FPS First-Person Shooter, and it's in development, and we can't wait to bring you more.
Fantastic. That's excellent. And then this or something says for another $5. In 1984, there was a film called Cloak and Dagger, which had an Atari game tie-in of the same name. Actually, there were many movies at the time that had like video game ties in back then. Conan got it. E.T. even had a video game tie-in.
Notoriously,
legendary as that was. So,
Alien as well, Ghostbusters. I mean, there were so many games that were basically setting the foundation of, you know, what eventually would become the game IP adaptation, you know, stigma that we've gotten over the years. It's difficult too talking about video games to movies and then vice versa, because it's very rare when anyone gets it right, but when it does, it's always awesome.
Indeed, it is. And we have
Just a quick,
Rob, you were saying.
Just a quick question for Andrew.
Yeah.
What is the I know the narrative problems that the player controls the narratives, but is there still this perception of in Hollywood that kids play video games, so we don't have to make it good? I mean, what's the barrier here?
I hate to say it, but that seems to have kind of been the mentality. I know that it was that way when we were all growing up, where you get that in the early 90s. Oh, the Super Mario Brothers game, nobody knows what that is. It's just Nintendo. Kids play Nintendo. Nobody cares. Let them, whatever. And it can be as bad as it wants, but it'll still make money. I think the fact that we're all, as video game fans in our, earning years, decades of life, we're all mature, we're all adults, we're all, people who are the ones who are paying for these, streaming costs and the tickets when we get back into the theaters and everything else. The mentality is starting to change, but there's still that stigma where some people do seem to look at video games as a lesser form of entertainment. But then when you actually talk to the fans, it's one of the most dominant entertainment industries in the entire world. And that's undeniable. So when you have creators and directors and writers and people with visions who take this stuff seriously, you get great stuff. And that's what I'm hoping from the new Mortal Kombat. I know James Wan is a huge fan of the property. I'd love to see how, this movie winds up being one of the most successful video game films ever made. You look at Sonic, and that was done incredibly well after all of the nonsense and redesign stuff. You actually had people go in there and do it right. And you look at the fan films, like we're talking about with the Street Fighter film, that wound up getting basically put in canon as part of all of Street Fighter. When you have the right people making the movie, it's a hit. But when you have people who think, oh, that's no big deal, that's not, and I can just, get it out there and it'll make money, I always feel like that's the wrong approach. But again, I can't wait to see what Mortal Kombat's going to be.
Indeed. And Christopher Tock says, Andrew, does it cover the rise of the Triad? That Lee Jackson soundtrack was top shelf.
Oh yeah, that's one that we've definitely discussed. Like I said, head over to fpsdoc.com, sign up, give us your input, tell us that you want to see this in the documentary. And again, this is by the fans for the fans, because we're listening to you guys. We want to cover what you want to hear and what you want to see and what you want to have talked about. So Rise of the Triad, yeah, that's an awesome shout out for that one. And yeah, too cool.
Awesome.
Indeed. And then I would like to highlight what WTF viewer says. Then there were movie rip-off games like Rastan ripping off Conan the Barbarian. Yes,
Oh, yeah.
indeed.
Yeah.
That's like a whole genre unto itself, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the Rastan games are literally like they changed nothing. They made exactly the same thing they were going to make, and if you look at the box art, that's Conan.
I was just gonna say that's the funny thing that that reminds me of this comment reminded me of was the box art. It's so reminiscent of 80s and 90s video store box art where you go in and you look at these video games and you know you're not getting what you're promised, and even more so with the video games and the movies, right? Like, because that was always a thing that was like, you know, like Contra has like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Schwarzenegger and Billy, or some people say it's Schwarzenegger and Stallone.
Yeah,
totally.
How much awesome did all the old Atari box arts make the games look? But you used to fill in the gaps.
Oh, that was
imagination.
a whole nother level of like fuckery there.
Wait a second,
that's it, man.
If you give it 1 second, speaking of like rip-offs, because I just so happen to have the Rastan art right here.
That's awesome.
Just give me 1 second here, and we shall see. There we go. That's the Conan rip-off game right there.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
Rastan, and that's literally like a pose from the comics.
I was going to say it looks like it was lifted right from one of the.
It is lifted straight from one of the covers. They just did. I mean, I don't think they even did a paint over. They just cut it out,
probably, and
put it over a new background. That's Conan right there.
This is so like 80s and 90s, yes.
Yeah, and you know what's so tragic about it? Because like the original Rastan game, it kind of sucked, and it's completely it has no shelf life beyond when it was released. And Rastan 2, even worse. But Rastan
is that the
3,
subtitle?
I don't remember the subtitle for Rastan.
Even
3,
worse
but,
words.
But the third game. That was only released in arcades in Japan, and that game is freaking amazing. I mean, it's like that would have been the ultimate Conan game right there if it had been.
Isn't that how it usually works out, though? Like the better versions of everything is always the ones that don't get released here or other places outside of like Japan and stuff. Usually,
yeah. Sometimes that just happens. Sometimes you have to get it to a certain standard. I know that was the big deal back in the day with Nintendo and the Nintendo Entertainment System. A lot of games that were coming over from Japanese releases had to have a lot of stuff cut, and whether it was dialogue or imagery or what, sometimes it's always great to look at the original versions, and sometimes they're the better ones.
Yeah. And considering my video game knowledge isn't very far beyond large apes throwing barrels, I'm kind of surprised I got through most of this conversation today.
Yeah. And Hypergiver 2 says Carl Urban's Doom is a guilty pleasure of mine and is the best Resident Evil movie made. Now Doom Annihilation loads shotgun with malicious intent. I haven't seen Doom Annihilation, but I will say that whoever thought of the title Doom Annihilation, he deserves to be kicked to the curb. I mean, was Mortal Kombat Annihilation something that just happened to other people? Do they know what that title means? Or maybe it was just the exact same thing. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
In my world, it did because I never wanted to acknowledge it.
There you go. Anyway, with that, we are caught up again. Tom, can you play that trailer one more time for Andrew's first-person shooter project?
Absolutely. Here we go.
Let's rock.
Overkill. Get some.
And of course, we got our wrenches sharing the link to your website there. So check out this document, or check out the Kickstarter for this documentary.
This is a force to be reckoned with.
That's right. We also got a super chat that came in during the trailer that says Wing Commander should have gotten a live action, got a live action with the Wing Commander 3 cast, Hamill, McDowell, Rhys Davies, and Wilson. It would have been epic, says Clark Terry fan. Yeah, and considering that like how that game was put together, they like had a lot of the elements right there to do it. But no, that's one of those woulda, shoulda, coulda things, I guess. But yeah, Andrew, anything else to plug for your documentary, or anything else going on upcoming that we should know about?
Yeah, well, like I talked to you guys about, In Search of Darkness Part 2 is out, and we've just loved all of the great reception that it's gotten. That's the 80s horror documentary. That's the sequel to In Search of Darkness. That's already available out there on Amazon Video and Shudder. But In Search of Darkness Part 2 is coming to Shudder at the end of April. So everyone who wants to see a deeper dive into 80s horror movies, keep an eye out for that. We have development going on right now, like I talked about while I was chatting with you guys. We have Walter Koenig. We have recent interviews with Last Starfighter stars, Lance Guest and Catherine Mary Stewart. In Search of Tomorrow, our 80s sci-fi documentary is in production, and we're going to be keeping everyone posted as we get that deeper and deeper and closer to release by the end of this year. So we're excited to bring that to everyone who's looking forward to that. But for FPS, first-person shooter, we're just excited to be able to debut the trailer with you guys. This was fantastic. I had a blast chatting with you about, all the games that we've discussed, all the movies that are game adaptations and vice versa, stuff like Mortal Kombat I'm looking forward to seeing. But for FPS, everyone who wants to follow along with the development of the documentary, just get a hold of us on @FPSDoc on Twitter, Instagram, and we're also on Facebook. And hit us up on our website, fpsdoc.com, and keep an eye out for it, because we'll be revealing a lot more of the development soon. And again, that trailer, that teaser that you just watched was edited by our director, Chris Stratton, who is going to be bringing that same kind of energy and that same kind of level of fun to the documentary that we're doing. So we can't wait.
Indeed. Well, everyone, be sure to check that out. The link is in the description. And with that, Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Guys, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. I had a great time today.
Absolutely.
Always a pleasure to have you, man. Always a pleasure. We got one more super chat before you run on the topic of video games from Mecha J. You heard the upcoming Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game called Shredder's Revenge. Looks amazing. It does.
Yes,
it does.
Yes.
What I want is the freaking opening as a TV show. I'm like, fuck the game. Give me the show.
Oh, man. I'm telling you. And it's from Tribute Games, the guys who did Curses and Chaos and Mercenary Kings and so many other awesome games. I'm looking forward to this. This looks like the Ninja Turtles game that I've wanted to play since the original Ninja Turtles games for the arcade, and then the ones that wound up on Nintendo and Super Nintendo and Sega. Yeah, there you go. Oh, man. I'm telling you. You play the original Ninja Turtle arcade game, and you always have a great time. I know I do, but I'm looking forward to this new one.
I already got a game. Just give me that series. That opening animation was just so like, oh my God, talk about pissing my pants. Like, this is what I want. Like, that looks amazing. I mean,
for real.
I was like, give me that.
Yeah, they did a great job with that trailer, and I can't wait to see and play the game.
Absolutely.
And Clark Terry fan says Wing Commander should have got a live action.
Yeah, we got that one.
Okay. This
you
one?
must have been. Yeah, you must have been away for a second.
Okay. Yeah.
I got that one already. But thank you again for that super chat. We appreciate it. And thank you, Andrew, for coming in this morning and telling us all about this new documentary you're working on and all the fun stuff you got coming up. Hopefully we'll be able to join in again soon on some of your watch parties as well.
Yeah, of course. Part of what we do is we also have our communities for the 80s horror community and the 80s sci-fi community. Everyone who's ordered physical copies of In Search of Darkness and In Search of Tomorrow and back the In Search of Tomorrow film with us is a part of our Discord. And on our 80s horror and our 80s sci-fi, we do watch parties every Sunday. And this one coming up, we're really excited for. We're going to have Deep Roy joining us for a watch party of Return of the Jedi here in 2 weeks, and we can't wait. But we'll have more information on that soon. We'll definitely get you guys back on for one coming up. We always have a great time when you join us. Oh, and for 80s horror for this weekend, we have our CEO and executive producer, Robin Block, as our special guest for a watch party of Larry Cohen's The Stuff. And that's going to be a lot of fun here on the 14th. But like I said, on the 21st, we've got Deep Roy joining us for Return of the Jedi. And again, anyone who gets a physical copy of our documentary from us, whether it's In Search of Darkness, In Search of Darkness Part 2, or if you're a backer of In Search of Tomorrow, you get access to our exclusive community in our Discord where you can be part of our watch parties where your questions are the ones that we ask our celebrities whenever we're joined by them. So we love being able to bring that to everyone.
Indeed. So yeah, everyone be sure to check that out. And with that, Andrew, thanks for joining us.
I loved it. Thank you guys so much. It's always a great time. Thank you again.